Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be giving you my review and critique of the show Fear Thy Neighbor, which is on the Investigation Discovery Network. So anyway, well, first off, many of you may have seen this show, some of you may not have, but the show Fear Thy Neighbor, I really like and enjoy. I mean, it's really not about positive things, though. I mean, it's about, of course, Fearful Neighbor is the title. It's about how neighbors acts, nefarious acts, and just the way they act toward their neighbor or neighbors put them or could put them in a state of trepidation and very strong fear. But what's good about the show is that it lets people know. I mean, most people understand and have an idea that when they're moving into a neighborhood, they may have their neighbors could be just about anybody, and it could be good. I mean, many neighbors can be benevolent and kind. There's others that can be more nefarious, like the ones that are focused on in this show. But and then there's some that are just kind of in between. They might have, their temperament might not be the best, but they're not out doing dastardly deeds, or they're basically harmless to their neighbors. They just don't have the best disposition, but I guess you could say they're tolerable. But in this case, the Fear Thy Neighbor, really focuses on, neighbors that will do dastardly things to their people that will do dastardly things to their neighbors, that will act in a nefarious manner toward them, being mischievous. There was one episode, I don't want to say too much about it or reveal the ending, of course, but in one episode where this one guy, he just kept, acting very vengeful toward one of his neighbors and kept doing one thing after another to him. And then, of course, it escalates at that point. You often have one neighbor that's the more docile or passive one, so to speak. Then you have another one which really just won't let up. You always hear a lot of times you hear the expression, it takes two to tango in fight, meaning that it requires two people generally to have a combative or contentious situation. However, this show, I think, shows that sometimes it just takes one person to really keep hammering away, so to speak, figuratively speaking, and keep doing the negative or adverse things toward the other neighbor. And really, sometimes it's just one person that's really the main culprit. People do at some point are going to defend themselves. Sometimes they take it to an extreme level, though, of course, and sometimes that could happen when you watch the show if you haven't seen it before. But the thing about this is too, the one thing I like about the show is that it gives, for people that really might be a little bit naive or somewhat oblivious to the fact that they could be moving into a new neighborhood and not realizing that they might not be cognizant of the fact that their neighbors might not be the best. They might be people that are troublemakers. They might be nefarious types. And really some people are oblivious to the possibility of that, I think. And what it does is it really acts as an eye-opener for people, so to speak, and for the ones that really might not have realized that some of these neighbors can go often to extremes and really can become very volatile, because in some instances it could be due to an unintentional slight by their neighbor. It could just be something where you had just a tremendous irrational overreaction to something that was said by somebody, and all of a sudden it ascends and escalates to a whole different level. And sometimes it could just be somebody that might be hypersensitive, or somebody that is oversensitive but just takes it to a different level. So it opens your eye and makes you more cognizant of the multiple different personalities that are out there, and you don't know if these people could be living next door to you. So I think what it does is it can make people a little bit more prudent in terms of when they go into a new neighborhood, more assiduous, maybe trying to find out who making sure they have some names of the people that are going to be, maybe if they're moving into a house, say to the left and to the right of them at least, who's going to be adjacent to them, maybe do a background check. I know there's a number of websites where you can do an online background check. I don't know how thorough or how extensive they are, but I think it enables you to really think about this and maybe do that as a precautionary measure prior to going into you're embarking on new territory. No matter, I mean, you could be going into the best neighborhood and it seems very pristine and everything seems fine, but you could also have people that are very, I mean, they put on their superficial friendly facade and really could be hiding something a lot darker and sinister underneath. So it's really good to maybe do the background checks prior to going in finding out perhaps who your neighbors are, who the people at least that are going to be to the left and to the right of you. If you're in that situation where you're moving to a house and there's somebody on the left, somebody on the right, at least the ones that are in that very strong close proximity to you. So I think those are some things to look at and consider. And I think the show makes you very well aware of it. And there was one episode where they had the one guy, he kept doing these dastardly things to his neighbor, and it just seemed like, the police would come by and they'd be apathetic, I guess, because they'd be like, well, we didn't actually see the person in action, we can't prove anything, we don't have the irrefutable evidence. And yeah, it's a shame that sometimes people won't do anything until something, perilous happens or something very catastrophic, somebody really gets seriously hurt. And I think it just shows that maybe even if police might be watching it, they could say, well, maybe it shows that they can perhaps maybe do a little more in terms of trying to intervene and act as at least as a mediator, even if they don't really feel they have enough to arrest somebody. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube segment for my review of Fear Thy Neighbor. I give it 5 stars out of possible 5. I love the series. Anyway, people, until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.